Now, people who are in established businesses already in a company, they might see this idea of breakaway and go, well, that's really cool, but they might be too scared or they might have excuses. What do you say to those type of people?
Okay, well, if we're dealing about people who are in established businesses, and Koos Becker is a classic example of this as well. But the whole idea is that we operate in very competitive times. The emphasis and the need for innovation is massive. And what I've found, especially through the research and the work that I've done, is that the degree to which we step back from our normal business operations and take time to reflect and to conceptualize new ways of doing things, and also to experiment with different ways in which we can improve our businesses, has a huge influence on success. So this whole idea that when you break away, you're actually not being productive, for me is crazy. I believe that in terms of coming up with key innovations, breakaways are the times that people really discover them.
So you mentioned Koos Becker there, who is obviously the former CEO of Naspers, and he's on a sabbatical, and he will be back as the chairman of Naspers. And you're talking a bit about him. He used breakaways once before, and now he's on one again. You talk a bit about him. Explain more.
Well, I don't really know too much about exactly what Koos does on his sabbaticals, but we have to look at what Naspers has become. Tencent, for example, is a huge part of the success, and that was a business that was discovered by a company in South Africa opening its minds to opportunities overseas. And we all know very well that Koos went to China on a sabbatical, and who knows what other ideas he discovered that are still yet to come through the Naspers pipeline. And now he's gone off to South America, and I'm very interested to see what he discovers there. But I think another interesting thing that he talks about is he basically says that the strategy with Naspers in terms of finding successful businesses is like throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks. And I think that is a perfect metaphor for breakaway, especially when people start talking about their careers. We often place huge emphasis and we put a huge amount of our happiness on just one career. We invest in education, we do degrees, and we just trust that one career is basically going to fulfill us. Yet when we throw that one piece and it doesn't stick, we're thinking, well, what do I do now? So I think the strategy of Naspers, of throwing lots of different pieces of spaghetti at the same time and seeing what sticks, is a very good way, because you just don't know what is going to be successful. And you can relate that very much to our individual career development as well.
You went on a sabbatical. How did it change your life?
It fundamentally changed my life. From a career perspective, it gave me a key innovation, which is the Breakaway book, which is going to help me to take my role within the industry to a whole new level. From another professional perspective, I went on the sabbatical with some kind of uncertainty as to whether or not I was in the right career. And I had the opportunity to engage in different work experiences or different other careers that had gripped my imagination. I worked in advertising in London. I made chocolate in Ecuador. I made a documentary in South Africa. I even looked into coming up with a business plan for a travel light, which was an opportunity that came to me on my travels. So all of these things were there, and having tried them out and having come back, I've come to the realization that coaching is the career for me. And I think more than that, it helped me to explore and understand the relationships that I have to everything in my life, in terms of relationships to my intimate partner, to my family, to my childhood, all of the things that we have to navigate to be fulfilled. And what a lot of people realize is that the organ of career cannot thrive on its own. You have to make sure that all of the other areas of your life are also holistically balanced. And that's what a breakaway really helps you to achieve, is balance.
So how many careers do you think people should have in their life these days? I mean, it used to be that you had one career. Is it possible to have more than one, and a sabbatical could help in the transition between one career to the next?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting. As part of my book, I tried to find some kind of research which could say how many careers there were out there, and I couldn't find any figure. And it's clear that careers are changing all the time. There must be tens of thousands of different ways in which people can find meaning and develop well-being. What I have found, though, is some kind of research that suggests that we will change careers up to 4 to 5 times in our lifetime. And at each of those points, you are navigating a transition whereby either your industry has changed and your product becomes irrelevant, or you find that you've changed. Your values or what fulfills you is not necessarily real anymore. So you have to look for new meaning or new ways in which you can apply your skills.
Now, the book Breakaway that you've written, you haven't got a publisher. You're doing it you're self-publishing, and you're using a crowdfunding platform to do this. Would you like to talk a little bit about that process?
Well, yes. I am working with a publisher. It's called QuickFox, and they're a well-regarded independent publisher in South Africa. But the beauty is that they allow me to take all the risk and to decide exactly what elements of the whole publishing process they want to do or I need them to do, and what are the elements that I'm going to do myself. With the risk comes the responsibility of coming up with the money. And these days, through the internet and amazing crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, which is a global phenomenon, but South Africa has developed its first one called Thunder Fund, which was started by a friend of mine called Patrick Schofield. And I mean, they're an unbelievable team. And I'm able to essentially pre-sell the book and various other coaching services and experiences related to Breakaway to raise the funds that I need to actually get the book out there.
So you've got a campaign going. When does that campaign end?
The campaign ends in 2 weeks, and I've already got sort of half the money that I need to achieve what's called the tipping point, which is the minimum amount of money you need.
So what date is that?
It ends on the 9th of October.
9th of October. So people have got until then to go on to Thunder Fund and actually get into this book.
Yeah, anyone who is a student or a parent who's responsible for guiding a student to their career, an entrepreneur who wants to make sure that they're at the cutting edge of their industry, or a disillusioned professional that feels that they need to change, and even someone facing retirement can pick up Breakaway and design an experience that's going to help them to discover their own vocation, but ultimately lead a much richer life. And my invitation to anyone out there is to go and check out the campaign, see all the amazing rewards that I have to offer, and ultimately get your hands on Breakaway.